How do you personally deal with the fact that you're going to die? It is what it is. Dude. You can't worry about things you can't control. There's gonna be a lot of good stuff that I'm gonna miss. But also a lot of bad stuff. Life isn't all sunshine and rainbows. And overall it seems to have evened out to be 33% good stuff, 33% boring routine, and 33% bad stuff. When you get older, as health declines, the brain gets fuzzier. The world starts passing you by and you have to rely more on others to function. I'd say that, optimistically, that would shift to 20% good stuff, 40% boring routine, and 40% bad challenging stuff. I just focus on the fact that when I die, while I will miss out on that 20% of the good stuff, I get to completely evade that 80% of routine and bullshit. I'm not really worried about it. Momentarily died before and was brought back. I remember feeling immense peace. It was like the best nap ever. I'll be sad to leave my friends and family when my time really comes. But I'm not worried about dying or being dead. I've come close to dying. But not actually technically dying. I was really sick. And I remember thinking that maybe I was dying. And not caring very much. So, I imagine when the time comes, it'll be fine. I haven't come close to dying really. But I have passed out from blood loss. Honestly, it felt nice. Like a pleasant sleep. I was pissed when they woke me up. I had a stroke in my early 30s and didn't know that's what it was. My first thought was it'll be a couple of months until they find my body because I lived alone and away from family. Since then, I've felt so relieved that I'm ready for lights out, since for most people that's not something we control. By laying in bed wide awake all night worrying about it. Of course. Dude, I like for a solid 4 months during this quarantine shat myself every night as tried to get around the fact that one day my parents were gonna die and after, maybe before, them me. It's just like you wanna whine and cry about a mountain being where it is and asking it to move, but you know not even deep down like right on the surface that the mountain are a piece of shit and won't move. I just worry sometimes that I will go into that headspace again if ever something goes terribly wrong. Existentialism. Nothing will matter to me once I'm dead. So I might as well enjoy the time I have. Being a first responder has cemented this philosophy for me. The dead aren't sad. They don't know they're dead. They don't know anything. They've gone. It sucks only for those left behind that care about them. Like I always do. I ignore it until last moment and then I will maybe panic. That's what worries me the most. What my final moments will be like. Will I panic? Will I be in severe mental decline where I'm trapped in my own private hell? Maybe severely depressed on some fk'd up meds. How long will those last moments be? Will I be alone or with loved ones? If I had to choose my own death, it would be at a ripe old age. With a clear conscience and just slip away in the middle of my sleep. Unfortunately, I don't think most people have that luxury. Alan Watts' insight was quite helpful. First, he looks at birth. Try to imagine waking up without ever having fallen asleep. Double quote. Then, death, which is the classic falling asleep but never waking up. Double quote. Birth is just as unfathomable as death. But we made it. We're cool with it. So there's no need to stress, my friend. And this comes from a kid who's got maybe 5 years left. I've been dead twice. First time was from being mugged and being beaten horribly. Due to the head injury, my heart stopped. But the docs managed to reduce the pressure on my brain and get my heart beating again. I was in a coma for 4 weeks. Second time was after the vehicle I was in hit an IED. The trigger charge went and blew the tire off my Humvee. When the OD got there, they said that it was just a fluke, that the whole thing didn't go off. And if it did, my Humvee wouldn't have had anything bigger than a nut left. So yeah, I personally feel like I am in extra time for my life. As such, I try to live every minute of it. This is one of the things Buddhists get right, the notion of impermanence and the value of remaining present. Might be worth looking into. Killing the Buddha is a good read. Edit. Killing the Buddha by Manso and Charlotte. Embrace the present and embrace death in the sense that as long as it is inevitable, try your best to make sure that your life is a net positive for other and that you won't look back at the end feeling regret for not doing what you wanted to do or should have done. Focusing on the moment and not investing too much in the future is essential for that. It's never bothered me. And I'm genuinely confused about the fear of dying that so many other feel. I'm scared of the pain I might feel and I have the biological response to near-death situations. But dreading the day doesn't happen for me. For me, as one of the fearful ones, the everlasting nothing scares me. I know I won't be conscious. I know that it's the same thing like when I wasn't even born. But I am somehow scared that I will be aware that I am dead and that there is nothing and there will be no end to the nothing. IDK if that makes sense. I just drank mulled wine. Try to forget it. It's my biggest and only fear. I can't comprehend the thought of not being alive. So when I think about it, I force myself not to think about it. Wish I could force myself to not think about it. I literally think every day at some point whether I'll die today and how I'm lucky I've managed to reach my age and not die yet, early 30s. Embrace it. Death is coming for you. Me. All of us. One day everything you've ever done, ever said will be forgotten. No accomplishment you've made will be remembered. You will be forgotten. When will the last thought about you be made? Will it be your great-grandchild? For every Sasar there is an untold number of folk long forgotten by all. So love those around you. Be selfish with your time. Only those worth your time should be a part of your life. Those that only offer negatives don't need to be nourished. Value everyone you value. Every day be thankful to have them here. Now and with you. Embrace life because you don't get to be here very long. Death doesn't have my consent so I legally can't die. What's he gonna do? Kill me? I already said no. Maybe you didn't hear but there's these rumors about that death guy. Nobody on campus invites him to parties anymore because it sounds like consent isn't exactly his strong suit. Live fully and happily until then. Honestly the thing that keeps me up at night isn't dying, but my fear that I've wasted my time here. If I felt like I had maximizes every moment I was given, I would be totally okay with dying. Spoiler. I haven't lol. I'm 60 and have watched my wife of 33 years die in the hospital. I jaff and am ready. Got a will and everything. The fact that I'll eventually die doesn't scare me. I couldn't imagine the pain of living forever. What does scare me though is the people I love dying. That I struggle to deal with. It is scary to lose the ones you love. I've lost my parents, grandparents, and other loved ones. It never gets easier. Enjoy the time you have with them. It will end before you are ready. Edit. Spelling. I'm in law enforcement and I went to a therapist after a few incidents where I almost lost my life, was ambushed twice, had someone try to run me over in their car. I had seen so much death in such a short amount of time working in a high crime area and was having trouble reconciling how fragile life really was. It started to really affect my life and I ended up getting help for it. I had a therapist tell me something that changed my life forever. Everyone's ticket is already stamped. Everyone's day is numbered. It gave me a lot of peace knowing that there was only so much that I could control and that I could die slipping on a banana peel and hitting my head as easily as something tragic at work. Looking forward to it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not planning to cut my life short or anything. But when it eventually happens, I can finally rest. Chronic illness is a BTCH and sometimes I get tired fighting it. I'm a Christian so I believe that because I have trusted in Jesus for the forgiveness of my sins, I will have eternal peace and joy when I die. That's not to say that the process of dying doesn't frighten me. It does. I also sometimes feel pain for the things I will leave behind. But I just try to remember that heaven will be much better. I'm a Muslim so I believe the afterlife is the permanent one. I'm looking forward to it in fact. As Muslims, We believe this life is a short interval where we are tested with trials and we try to do as many good deeds as possible, such as help the poor, etc. As a Christian, I have similar beliefs to your first sentence. But, as a Christian, I know that I can't possibly pass that test by doing good deeds and helping others. For sure I believe in doing those things. But it's not how I am saved. We are saved by believing that Jesus Christ completely paid the sin debt for us. We put our faith and trust in him and his work completed on the cross. My death doesn't bother me. The deaths of my loved ones and my selfish need to have some of their time is what I am afraid of losing. I deal with my death by paying for a life insurance policy. I'm 78 and my wife is 81. We're in reasonable health, considering what we say to each other. In non-denial, denial is 40 more years. I believe in reincarnation, so I don't think my death matters too much. It's just rinse and repeat. My soul will not die. Just forget. So I don't really care about anything. May sound depressing, but actually is what has saved me from killing myself several times. I mean, if I'll keep coming back in different bodies, what's the use in hurry the circle? There is an almost infinite amount of time that existed before you were born. Time will continue after you are gone. Your entire life is less than a heartbeat in comparison to the universe. I don't know exactly why, but minimizing myself in this way makes the prospect of my death seem less significant. I do not fear death. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born, and had not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it. Double quote. Mark Twain. I do the best I can to ensure that I'll have a positive impact on the people in my life and the environment. Regardless of any metaphysical elements that cannot be proven, my afterlife will be how people remember me and the impact I had on them. When people used to tell me not to fear death because it isn't painful, it's literally nothing. You are completely erased and can't be scared made me even more worried, because that is the scary part. Then I learned that the reason something neutral is scary is because the brain can't comprehend it. Your brain is constantly trying to think about a next move. When you're cornered, you freak out because the brain struggles with finding out what to do without being punished. Permanently losing consciousness means literally no future and no next move or state. In a way, your brain's choices are not just approaching zero. It is zero. It's like dividing with a tiny number versus actual zero. Your brain's fight or flight instinct reaches infinity. Anyway, that's how I see it. I don't want to bring religion into this, but I'm Christian and I believe ultimately good triumphs evil and the good people can be righteously judged with no corruption. So knowing that, it sort of makes me feel at peace knowing that I have zero fear in death or dying. I fear living to an age where I cannot do anything for myself or lose my mind and myself. I'd rather die young than go through that. I used to just try to enjoy life as much as possible and to make the most of it. Sitting in this hospital room waiting for the CT scan and biopsy to tell me I have cancer. Well, I just cry and think of all the possibilities of what my future will be like. My dad died at 49, which isn't super young but still is. It hangs over me constantly. I am 31 and want kids, but my husband is reluctant. I feel like I would only have 17 years with them if I started now. IDK, it's ruining my mental health as I feel like time with family that doesn't exist is being stolen from me. I prefer to be grateful for being granted many years and a good quality of life compared to pretty much any organism human of any time period. I also like to remind myself that living for a few hundred more years would likely be very boring, and immortality would end up being endless torture. Not to mention the body and mental issues one would get from living more than 200 years really make the absence of sentience sound good. We're more blessed than we think, and if you don't agree and dislike to live, then at least we're able to rest in nothingness. Have an anxiety attack every time I think about it, so I avoid thinking about it at all costs. To the point where sometimes I wish I wasn't born so I don't have to die. The thought alone is f***ing terrifying. Reddit actually helped me with this. There was a thread asking nurses and hospice workers what people's greatest regret was at the end of their life. I'm young enough that I realize that many of the things people regret, working too much, not spending time with people, traveling, are things I can make sure I accomplish. And they also mentioned that many people are pretty peaceful when they go, which was really nice to hear. I think people imagine death as being scary because they're young, and there's just so much life left. Once you get old, again, hopefully not dying young, you've lived your life.